Did y'all know that Laurence Fishburne rejected the offer to co-star in What's Love Got to Do with It alongside Angela Bassett 5 times?
On the other hand, What's Love Got to Do with It, you turned down several times.
Turned that down 5 times. Yes.
5 times.
Yep.
So what was wrong with it when they kept coming to you? What didn't you like?
Well, I felt that it was written the writing was really strong with respect to Tina's character, and it wasn't strong enough with respect to Ike's character.
Mm-hmm.
But, once I recognized that Angela was going to be playing Tina, I thought, well, I have to do this now. Because I was a fan of hers. I had worked with her before. I needed to be there to work with her and to provide the kind of support that I knew she would need.
So how did you, knowing that there were some things you didn't like about how they wrote the character, how did you make it your own?
I would change the script every day.
Every day?
Every day.
Okay.
Now, let me
I owe my thanks to Larry, what's his name, Fishburne or Washington?
Larry Fishburne.
Yeah, because he was, that's a young black man, a lot of blacks jump at any opportunity in movies today.
Yeah.
But he didn't. He turned that movie down 4 times because he said, hey man, how could you, that's what he told me when I finally met him. They didn't want him to meet me either. But anyway, he told me that he turned the movie down 4 times. He said, because if you beat her the way that they tried to say you did, and you did, when did you have a chance to make her a star?
Yeah.
You understand? Which is the truth. So anyway, he stuck his guns, and so finally they let him make the front part of the movie the way that I am.
Okay.
And the other part, man, like they had, I'll give you a couple examples. The scene with the cake.
Right.
I never even seen the movie. The scene that I saw advertised on TV with the cake, it never existed in the first place. And then that baby that was born
in the hospital,
and that's the biggest lie ever been told.
Now you and Tina,
that's my oldest son, Craig. I'm not even his father. That baby was born out of wedlock.
Now you and Tina only have 1 child.
That's right.
Okay.
The thing about it, I never married Tina in the first place. That's another lie.
You and Tina were never married.
I gave her mother a dime to do nothing with Tina. Her mother should have been paying me.
Yeah, Laurence Fishburne and Angela Bassett are now being recognized for their brilliant portrayals of Ike and Tina Turner's likeness. Unfortunately, the movie's huge inaccuracies and oversights that are also in Tina's memoir can't be overlooked. For a film that has so much to do with Ike Turner, you should know the how and the why, and that's what this video is about. Going back to that time that brought these two together, the young 16-year-old Tina Turner and other women who were in hot pursuit of Ike Turner and his band, the Kings of Rhythm. After all, Ike Turner was famous for writing what's considered the first rock and roll song recorded in music history. This is their origin story. Ike Turner enjoyed his celebrity living a lavish lifestyle in St. Louis even before he and Anna Mae, Tina Turner, ever met.
George Edick Jr., and he's talking about his memories of his father's Club Imperial in North St. Louis. In the 1950s, the club hosted Ike Turner and his Kings of Rhythm, and that was years before there even was a duo known as Ike and Tina Turner, who later also played at the club.
And Ike Turner played that kind of shuffle beat that is good for that kind of dancing, and that's they started the Imperial style dancing. And that's when Ike gave me a guitar when I was a little kid. I was about 8 years old.
And now this time he was not famous.
Yeah, but he had a record with Rocket 88 before, but it's way before Tina.
So during this time, I mean, music and clubs were pretty segregated.
Oh yeah.
Is that right? Were you aware of that, and did you see that play out?
Oh yeah. See, at that time, a lot of people in North St. Louis didn't like my dad but because he did have black people working for him.
And these people who weren't happy with him in North St. Louis, were they white?
Oh, yeah. But if you look at the old pictures, back in them days, it was different back then. If you looked at all the pictures of Club Imperial with Ike and Tina, all the crowd was white. And then over in East St. Louis, you go to a place called the Blue Note, and all the crowd was black, and Ike could be playing over there.
While Tina was still a girl living on that plantation that she wrote about in her book, I, Tina, Ike Turner's Rocket 88, sang by Jackie Brinston and his Delta Cats, was #1 on the R&B music charts. Ike Turner was a regional star, a high roller, and a lot of people wanted to get on stage with him.
How did you and Ike get together?
Well, it's so amazing.
I never knew about the record industry at all, or like the shows. I never knew that people cut a record, and the same person that you heard on the radio was out like on stage and all. So I went to hear Ike Turner one night. This is like the beginning was Ike Turner and the Kings of Rhythm.
This was his group?
Yeah.
Yeah. What year was this about?
This was like 57. I'm sorry, 57.
Ike and Tina was more sisters and brothers than husband and wife.
Because she was real young when you met her. How young?
She was, 16?
16.
Yeah. And they put out of the clubs in St. Louis where I was working in St. Louis because they said she was too young. And I still stepped in through the back door.
And I went, and so I've always sang. So I says, I sure would like to sing with that group. So what made me ask Ike was there was a girl going to the same school I was going to, and she said, she started singing with him. So I says, I can beat her singing. I must get on the stage. So I always asked Ike if I could sing. He always said, okay, I'm going to call you. He never did.
This is the Ike and Tina Turner origin story, the real story about how Tina Turner got her start with Ike Turner making music history as a duo. Quite a bit of information, so I'm just going to split these into a recap of parts 1 through 3 and part 4. In this video, I will be providing more references to back up points I've already brought up in previous videos, and for sure this video, some folks call them receipts, and much of those receipts and those references will be coming straight from Ike and Tina Turner's own mouths and their books. I met Ike and Tina Turner's entire family and worked with them. And a lot of y'all are shocked to discover that Tina Turner's mother and her sister Aileen kept a close, loving family connection with Ike Turner up until the time that he passed in 2007. I am a fan of Ike and Tina as a duo and separately. Tina's determination, her vision, and timelessness is something that I continue to admire, even after finding out that a lot of that was going on with her comeback story is not accurate. But don't worry, you'll be able to make more sense of it all when you get more realistic details that the movie and Tina Turner's book forgot to mention. And it would have been interesting to see that on the screen, how our beloved Tina was down there in St. Louis working overtime at that club, because it was a lot of competition down there to get the attention of Ike Turner and his Kings of Rhythm.
And the drummer came up and set the microphone down for my sister to sing. And Aileen said no. So I said, okay, I will. And I started singing, and everybody came running in.
Hey, she was an excited teenager. We've all been excited teenagers. And she really, really wanted to get in that group. In this video, you're going to get a lot of the facts that both Ike and Tina agree on. That's actually what we wanted as fans. And I'm going to leave timestamps for those of you who have watched my previous videos so you can skip ahead. But I don't think you should skip ahead, because there's going to be a lot of interesting clips, a lot of audio that will just back up what I'm trying to connect together for you. As much as YouTube likes these short videos and videos with AI technology, I really had to take some time and put in some work on this video. I will also leave links in the description for you. And of course you can read their books, but I'm going to keep it moving. When I worked with Ike Turner and his sons up until the early 2000s, Ike was clean living for a decade. That's me on the right. There were no drugs, zero, no smoking. And he even limited himself to half a cup of coffee. He would look at me drink coffee and be like, girl, you should be drinking coffee like that. He really was clean living. This is still the Roseanne Barr show. I'm on the right. And during this show, after the show, I told Miss Roseanne Barr how grateful I was that she took Ike to task about the dysfunction and the violence in his marriage for his own sake and the sake of his family. This is a family. And Roseanne confronted Ike on these issues head on, making it impossible for Ike to wiggle around. You can check out that interview. And you know how celebs are. They'll brief journalists beforehand and say these questions are off limits. Roseanne don't play. She's a real one, just natural, the same with the cameras on or off, and so is Ike. So they understood each other, and I will always appreciate Miss Roseanne Barr for that. Now, even though Tina Turner herself, she never got down with the wild party and stuff like Ike and a lot of the other bandmates did, I still had always wished while she was still in life that some journalists would have taken her to task about the way she described her entire marriage to Ike Turner, her entire marriage and working relationship with him. And just say, come on, Tina, really, in your 20 years of knowing Ike, 4 of which were years where you guys were just platonic friends, no intimacy whatsoever. Let's keep it 100, because Ike and the women was a constant thing. This was always going on. This was never hidden. And I don't think Ike purposely threw things in Lorraine or Tina's face, but Tina definitely knew what was Ike, the way Ike ran. It was no secret that Ike creeped. If you're interested in that time, Ike says stuff about himself in this book that are worse than the movie. Worse. That's why there's no reason, like I said, there's no reason to stretch the truth. Just tell the truth. But Ike tells the truth on himself and everybody else. The man has no filter. As a fan of both Ike and Tina Turner's legendary sound that has continued to stand the test of time, I gotta jump in and say, artists can keep their business to themselves. People like to write me that in the comment sections, and I do agree. Talking about the music is enough, and I love the music. You see here, I am a big fan. I love the music. This is just a picture book. I'll leave links for all the books in the description. Tina, That's My Life, I, Tina, and Taking Back My Name. And I'll be getting a small commission if you decide to purchase any of these. Just pictures, coffee table book. I love it. And if you want to inspire us with rags to riches stories, I love that too. And sometimes we know life is tough, so give it to us if you like. It is your business. But you know, it's tough, this conflicting information. And I'm telling you, how did I know I would meet this family? But you don't have to meet the Turners to find these conflicts with these details. And if you read Tina's book, it's laid out in a way to send you down a path to believe a certain thing. But they did what they want with people's testimonies and their accounts of events. They start taking over the writing, you know, especially when you look at the way they take over Ike's accounts, speaking in a language that Ike doesn't really speak. And a lot of people out there, let me say this too, y'all think that Ike would be mad for Tina speaking up in interviews. He wanted her to do that. You see her taking a seat. Those seats, they already figure out who's going to sit where. Ike is a dude that doesn't have a filter. It's better if he holds his tongue. Y'all seen him in interviews saying things that are just cringe worthy because he's not the one putting on airs. He's not the one. He learned to cool it down, tame it down before he passed, but he's just a tough dude that came from a tough environment, and his life reflects that. So again, artists can keep their business to themselves. And like I said, you know, I'm into the art, the beauty, just looking at beautiful Tina, her legs. These are just like pictures. Y'all should get this. This is a beautiful book. But you don't have to do these tell-all books claiming that you're telling us, the fans, how the sausage was really made. Because it's not cool when those books and movies are deliberately misleading and full of inaccuracies. It's not cool. Now we have some alternative facts in the skipping over of facts and information from the queen of rock and roll. And it does happen sometimes with these biopics, even with the Aretha Franklin story, the queen of soul. They start tap dancing around details when it gets too unflattering or it doesn't fit the narrative. A lot of times simply leaving the most crucial facts that are key to the story completely out of the story. And we can't have that. And for anyone tuning in that's uncomfortable with hearing these facts connected and all that, I understand. I really do understand how you feel. And I don't mean any shade by that because, hey, I'm an Ike and Tina fan. Nobody's dragging Tina. Now, Tina Turner's mother and her sister Aileen maintained a close, loving family connection with Ike Turner until he passed in 2007. That's Mia Turner. She's not one of Lorraine's kids. She is actually Ann Thomas's daughter. she had another experience. Her mother was there. Even Tina Turner's son, Craig Hill Turner, was around quite often. I seen him on numerous occasions. And Craig is not a musician. A lot of y'all might know that he's into real estate. So, okay, is it possible to have a conflict with your parent and love them at the same time? Of course. But this was a family, and that's why I'm doing this video. I know that this is hard for a lot of people to believe, but I am a living witness that it's true. Meeting and working with them, with the Turners for a decade, you hear and see a lot, and you just realize that this is a family. These people had complicated experiences. They came up at a complicated time. And he's just a tough man. And he, like Tina, they were both deeply affected from the environments that they came from. But Ike would never offer that as an excuse. He never looked at anything in his life as like he was the victim of something. He never described anything as a victimization. When you hear these details, you'll be able to make more sense of it all. So much of their relationship has everything to do with what was going on at that time, especially in Tina's life. This comes from an article from the Daily Mail. My parents weren't mine and I wasn't theirs. Really, so when they left, it was as if they had always been gone, as far as I was concerned. If you ask my sister Aileen, you might get a different answer because she might have been affected by it differently. So for those of you who are faint of heart, I invite you to not watch this video and live happily ever after, or do watch the video and let me know what you think, because I'm just dropping information and you could tell me, hey, what do you think? You could use your own brain. A lot of this stuff is online. I'm just able to connect the information, I think, in a particular way because I know these people and I have heard these stories over and over. So I know the history orally, but I will be dropping receipts, as they like to say. And may all the Turners rest in peace, and the surviving members of their family take pride in the musical contributions of both Ike and Tina. For those of you who will be sticking with me, you're probably lovers of rags to riches stories and stories about female empowerment like Tina's. That's what we got from the movie. We all love Tina, but boy, has she been tap dancing through a lot of the discrepancies and conflicting eyewitness accounts that are in her own book. We were thoroughly entertained listening to these stories about Ike and watching them play out on the big screen and in these interviews. Now, Ike had early success with his music, and when Tina met Ike, she writes in her book how, as a band leader, Ike never touched drugs or alcohol. He didn't even smoke. And I would say he should have stuck with that. But while Tina Anna Mae Bullock was still living on the cotton plantation with her father, Ike Turner was already regularly on radio and TV as a successful band leader, talent scout, or A&R man with a huge following in the Midwest. See him here. This is a very old recording. This is 52 or 53. So Ike is about 19, 20, 21 years old maximum. Tina would be 12 years or so at this time, still living on the plantation, according to her memoir. And Tina has definitely expressed more bitterness about her childhood towards her parents and her grandparents, but especially towards her mother, who Tina claims was jealous of her. Daily Mail covered a story Tina told Rolling Stone magazines in 1986 regarding her mother. She didn't love me, and I knew the difference because I used to watch her with my sister, Aileen, how she was with her and then how she was with me. Tina also writes this about her mother. She never believed in me. She never wanted this child, and when this child grew up to be successful and creative, she didn't accept it because it was something she didn't want. She later told Oprah Winfrey during an appearance on her show. Why would she want it? Maybe jealousy? Is there a such thing as a mother's jealousy? Obviously, that must have been the case because it never went away. But Tina doesn't really talk about her upbringing in any real depth. And I know it wouldn't be easy for me to write a book about my pain. But for a book that's entitled I, Tina, it's really more about Ike. Barely mentioning the father of her first child, Raymond Hill. Tina is doing a lot of tap dancing. Raymond does have his little short 5 lines in the book, but he's barely mentioned. And then there's the tap dancing. And these accounts that are in Tina's book, like particularly with Ike, when Ike starts speaking, one of her contributing writers, they take over and start speculating. It's really, so I'm going to read you the way Ike accounts for some of these events that happen. Clearly, there's a particular motivation and narrative for this memoir, I, Tina. For the love of God, she reveals little more about her young life than feeling unloved, abandoned, and left on the plantation to pick cotton with her father. Now, and Tina stayed angry about this. So we know a lot went down with the elementary school age Anna Mae, who didn't enjoy the cotton picking. I mean, what child would, especially when you feel like you're the one that was left behind? And I guess she was the one that was left behind. But she does describe her family often struggling. It couldn't have been easy for her parents. Somehow she says that her father was well off as a sharecropper. Well, I don't see why her father would just pick up and leave his business. And I actually never heard of anyone describe sharecropping as lucrative. This was just like an extension of slavery. It was another way to reconstruct slavery. It was just reorganized slavery in servitude, like an indentured servant. And that's what happens with these sharecroppers. That's probably why he ran off. But we'll put that aside for now, because we got to get to the year 1956, when Tina is finally reunited with her mother in St. Louis, as well as her sister Aileen, leaving Tennessee after her grandmother, who was caring for her, had been laid to rest. I covered this in videos part 2 and 3. Tina Turner arrives in St. Louis in 1956 and saw Ike Turner and his Kings of Rhythm at the club where her big sister Aileen worked as a barmaid. Tina joined the slew of women, I'm sure there were men too, who wanted to jam with Ike Turner and his Kings. But Tina had the hookup with big sis Aileen. Against her mother's wishes, Tina made a point of getting out to the club and being part of the open mic sessions at the club. And all this was going on when having a female as the front woman for his band was the furthest thing from Ike Turner's mind. It was all about having men on stage. That was the concept, just like Earth, Wind & Fire or any other boy band. It was about being lady magnets like the Beatles. And Ike was a regional star just like the Beatles, very successful in his own right. This record executive wrote this, and it is in Tina's book. Henry Juggy Murray. Ike was a musical genius, but he wouldn't know a hit if it fell off the Empire State Building and hit him on the head. So I flew down to St. Louis, never been there before. He sent his driver to pick me up at the airport in his long black Cadillac and take me to his house. East St. Louis was a hell of a town, had gambling 24 hours a day, and they bet down there like they bet in Vegas. I'm serious. Ike bet $1,000 in a minute. He was the hottest thing in that area. He hadn't had a hit, but he wasn't poor. He was sharp. He was clean, had Cadillacs and pretty blonde white girls worshiping his tail all that he wanted. That's where I met this Anna Mae Bullock. She was around, actually, she was wherever Ike wanted her to be, along with his other 40 women. But if you listen to Tina tell it.
And he had always had problems with how he looked. They didn't think he was attractive. The attractive men were mulatto-looking guys and driving big cars, so he had a hard time, and I feel sorry for him.
So Tina arrives to St. Louis, and she says as she meets Ike Turner, has been telling us for years that Ike Turner doesn't have the confidence or the ability to speak for himself. I'm paraphrasing.
And this, guys and gals, is our fabulous Ike Turner. Ike, how long have you had your group?
About 5 years, 5 or 6 years.
5 or 6 years. What's some of the newest recordings you're making now?
Well, we have one number coming out called Box Top, which we recorded about 6 months ago. We released it here in the city, but we didn't release it nationally. And now we have another one coming out in a couple of days called Real Neat. You know, that's in the top tier. And we also have Rhythm and Blues number out now. I know you don't love me that much.
That's a real neat number, I bet.
No, it is. It is.
Well, we have a boy with your band by the name of Jimmy Thomas, and he does a real tremendous number, which was a real hit record. What was the name of that tune?
Splish Splash.
Splish Splash? Well, he hasn't got ready to...
See, that's the reason for doing this video, because this is a part of American music history, a lot of the groundwork for popular music today. And everybody knew Ike. He was all over the radio. He was on the TV. And all these years later, up until recent years, when Tina's interview, she still was throwing salt in the wounds. I mean, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. Now we're at the part of the timeline where we left off in the last video. So I'm just going to do another run through. I ain't going to talk about Ike's childhood, but we'll go back to 1951 when Ike is credited with writing and releasing the first rock and roll song in history. The hit Rocket 88, when little Anna Mae, according to her own book, was still in Nutbush, Tennessee, living on that cotton plantation with her father. In 52, Ike is at the top of his game. In 52, regularly on the radio and TV. In 56, Tina arrives in St. Louis when her sister Aileen is already dating the drummer from Ike's band, and working at the Manhattan Club, and is already chummy with Ike, giving the underage 16-year-old Tina Anna Mae Bullock the opportunity to see the famous Ike Turner and his Kings of Rhythm live in St. Louis. In 57, Tina begins to date Raymond Hill, Ike Turner's bestie and housemate, double dating alongside her sister Aileen, as Aileen is dating the drummer Eugene. Okay, and he's also renting a room in Ike's 10-bedroom home. That's what they tell me his house had, 10 bedrooms. In 58, Raymond Hill's child is born. And Raymond Hill is not particularly interested in being Tina's significant other or providing the care that they both need. That's obvious. Also in 58, Ike Turner has his own son, Ike Jr., with his longtime living girlfriend, Lorraine Taylor, who is acting as his wife. Lorraine Taylor is a well-dressed it girl. She is a fly girl, and she comes from a family of means. She has a lot of siblings, and they're well-to-do, okay? They're very well. They're doing very well. These are the kind of chicks Ike likes running around with in the nightlife. He likes the it girls, okay? And Lorraine Taylor, let me tell you, she is, y'all would call her part of the black bourgeoisie. Her parents own and operate a sausage company. I believe it is the first black-owned business in St. Louis. So Lorraine was coming from a family of means. She is a it girl. She is a fly girl. These are the kind of women that Ike likes to run with. And hey, she earned a spot next to Ike Turner. And life is moving along when later on in 58, Tina is now working as a nurse's assistant, but living alone in substandard conditions. And she reaches out to Ike and once again volunteers herself to do backing vocals alongside his Kings of Rhythm. Also in 58, Tina goes to Ike's home, and according to Ike, she is staying there along with Raymond Hill and their baby Craig, in addition to Ike's other housemate, the drummer. So you got Lorraine, Ike, and his baby, Ike Jr. as well. This is 1958. So in 1958, Tina is adjacent to a star, making herself available to do these backings. We're still in 1958 when Tina makes a debut wailing background vocals on the recording Box Top. That was her debut. She's still not a front woman, but she's in with the guy. She's in with Ike Turner. She's in his house. She's with his crew. She's in. Sometime in late 58, 59, at some point, Raymond Hill leaves Ike's home and eventually St. Louis. He leaves it all behind, which is strange because he had so much success with this band. And this is when the discrepancies begin, because Tina says things in her book that don't make sense time-wise, especially in this age of internet when you can check things. But we have now quickly ran through the years that are most important for this story, and that is the year 1956 to 1960. By now, Tina has seen it all. For 4 long years, Ike's lifestyle up close and personal. The celebrity lifestyle of Ike Turner with the girls, the brawls, the partying. She's had a front row seat to it all, and they have not yet become intimate, but they soon will. We're going to go to January of 1960. Both Ike and Tina agree. By Tina's own admission in her own book, Tina writes that she climbed into Ike's bed unsolicited. Tina wrote this, but she had her reasons, so you can go back and watch the previous videos 2 and 3. So this was January of 1960. But where is Lorraine? Lorraine, who is Ike's long-term live-in woman and acting wife. She's away from home in her 8th month of pregnancy, ready to pop. Okay. And actually, in Tina's book, she inaccurately writes that Michael Turner was born in 1959. So maybe people are listening saying, Lorraine wasn't pregnant then. She already had Michael Turner. But no. Lorraine would give birth in February of 1960 to Michael Turner, her and Ike Turner's son. Wikipedia has Michael Turner being born in 1960. Ike's book has Michael Turner, their son, being born in 1960, and so does his brother Ike Turner Jr. In numerous interviews, they refer to Michael Turner's birthday being in 1960. So it's safe to say that Michael Turner was born in 1960. You got at least 3 sources, more than 3 sources saying that he was born in 1960. This is the thing I'm talking about, these discrepancies in Tina's book, things being made pretty. So this would mean that Lorraine was very pregnant at the time of Ike and Tina Turner's, or Ike and Anna Mae Bullock's first rendezvous. This is a critical moment. And to just mix these dates all up like this book has done, messing with people's account of that time, making a date, just shoving a date a whole year somewhere else, that paints a picture. It's misleading in a big way. So you see, if you recall, Ike said that Lorraine left to her mother's house with Ike Jr. Does not mention Michael. And when he refers to Lorraine's other kids, he refers to them as other kids and not his kids. So everything points to Michael Turner not being born yet. We're still in the year 1960, the same year where A Fool in Love is to be recorded. A lot happened in this year, 1960, people. Okay, A Fool in Love is to be recorded. It was written and arranged for Art Lassiter by Ike Turner, and Ike paid for the session, and he says, and everyone says, that Art Lassiter ditched the recording session, running off with Ike's money. According to him, Ike loaned Art Lassiter some money, probably like a little advance. And since Ike already paid for this session, he had Tina record the vocal as a demo. Understanding that her voice would later on be removed. This song was written for a male singer, and it was written in a man's key after all. Now, at this moment, Tina is still known as Little Ann, and there was no thought, there was no discussion of renaming her Tina Turner at this time. None. This is an intense moment. There's a lot going on here. This is the crucial moment in the timeline because Tina is pregnant during this session. And also interesting, present at this recording session is Ms. Robbie Montgomery, owner of Sweetie Pies. And she is part of the backing vocalist for Art Lassiter's group. He calls the female singers the Artettes. This style of naming background singers was typical during that time. A lot of y'all know that. And Miss Robbie was an Artette. And she was also pregnant by Art Lassiter at the time. He is not Art Lassiter's son, okay? I'm not going to even get into him. Miss Robbie also sees that Tina is also obviously pregnant. I'm sure 2 pregnant women are talking about their pregnancies It's a small world. It is also during this session that Tina talks about the promise that she made to Ike not to leave him, and Ike talking about singers running off and leaving him. And this is something that kind of like doesn't make no sense. I'm not going to get deep into this, but you know, these are collabs. Art Lassiter had his own backing vocalist because he has his own act. Just like Jackie Brinston with his Delta Cats that recorded Rocket 88. It's just like if Rihanna and Eminem do something, or Cardi B and Bad Bunny do something, of course, after the project, they're going to go back to their personal projects because this is just a collab. People do that all the time. Of course, Lorraine has returned to Ike's side. So time passes and Lorraine is home with Ike, and she's noticing that Tina is walking around her house pregnant. And Lorraine is very suspicious because Tina is a single woman with no man in sight, no man to speak of, yet she is very pregnant walking around in Lorraine's house, okay? A woman's intuition is gonna get to tingling. Well, one night, Lorraine put it all together after weeks and months of constantly questioning Ike. According to Ike, Lorraine gets up in the night and threatens Tina with a firearm and a poker for the fireplace. Tina says this as well, but Tina's book says that this happened during her first pregnancy. Understand that if these women were in the same house, pregnant at the same time by the same man, and their children were born in the same year, 1960. It happens. Let me read how Ike recalls the incident, because Tina completely, again, she made this date. She just pushed it to another year, basically. Tina made this happen 2 years earlier in her book. Just like she made the birth of Michael Turner happen a year earlier, because it pretties up the story. But I have Ike's book. Let me read you what Ike wrote. Before all this happened, I was living with Lorraine, the mother of our son, Ike Jr. Her parents owned the Taylor Sausage Factory in St. Louis. She had run off and moved back with them for a while, taking our son with her. But about a month after Tina and I had sex, Lorraine decided to come back. She didn't know anything had happened between Tina and me, but she soon found out that Tina was pregnant. She asked me about it, but I always managed to avoid answering her questions. One morning, I was real tired after playing a club and staying up all night gambling. I went home and got in the bed with Lorraine to get some sleep. Lorraine tried to ask more questions about me and Tina, but again, I didn't answer her. While I was sleeping, Lorraine got out of the bed and went to Tina's room. She had my .38 caliber pistol and a poker from the fireplace. She went and said to Tina, "B, are you effing Sonny? I'm gonna kill you, whore." Tina told her that if that's what she felt like doing, she should go ahead and do it. There was a standoff. Tina got out of bed and rushing past Lorraine came to wake me up. She shook me. She was screaming, "Ike, wake up, wake up. Lorraine's got the gun." I was struggling to clear my head while Tina told me what had happened. I got out of bed to find Lorraine. As I went up the hallway, I heard the bathroom door slam shut and the lock go click. I went to the door and yelled, "Lorraine, give me that effing gun." There was no answer. I was just about to go around to the balcony from where you could reach the window to the bathroom when I heard the door lock click again, followed by a loud pow. Lorraine had unlocked the door, then put the gun to her side and pulled the trigger. She had shot herself. The bullet went through both her lungs and punctured her heart. I'm gonna skip up so that you can see where Ike puts this in the timeline. Okay, you can read his book, but I'm just gonna go here where he says, "I helped nurse Lorraine back to health after she came home from the hospital. She already had 2 other kids. He's talking about Lorraine, who were living with her mother. She always said that she didn't like kids, speaking of Lorraine. But once our records began to hit, she stayed at home while Tina and I went out on the road. Once a week or so, she would come out to wherever we were and spend a few days with us. Out on the road, though, I started to have sex with Tina again. As far as that side of our relation is concerned, I always felt that Tina was attractive. Okay, I don't need to go on because he's saying some stuff about how their love life goes, how their intimacy plays out. And that's not key to what I'm talking about right now. So you see, Ike puts that volatile conflict between Tina and Lorraine in the year 1960. Ike also does not mention Michael Turner. But yeah, there's some tap dancing going on here. But the main thing that I want to point out here with this little excerpt is that, once again, none of this scared Tina off. Tina stayed through all of that dysfunction. Maybe it was just her determination. She's seen so much and she stayed. The determination of this woman is on another level. And she was a different person then. People are different. Ike was a different person then. Tina was a different person then. Decades pass, people grow, life changes, the country changes. But most ladies out there, y'all know, in Tina's position, you would have hightailed it out of there or did something worse. But Tina stood her ground because she's tough. And again, ladies, kids, do not try this at home. Following this Hollywood story or this version of events, you can be inspired by the queen of rock and roll. I guess I'm doing commentary now, but don't attempt to replicate her life because there's some other stuff going on. All of this, and we still haven't reached the point when Tina says her relationship with Ike became violent or volatile, but it's already a mess. Wouldn't you agree? Okay, I guess I'm giving some commentary, or is it not? Do you find that Tina signed up for this, or that she was just a sheep out in the wilderness? I mean, what would you call that? But by now, Tina is adjacent to Ike Turner, the star. She's getting gifts, she's getting special treatment, and a lot of favors. She's where she wants to be, with the opportunity of a lifetime to do backing vocals in this band. That would be the opportunity of a lifetime for a lot of people, especially back in that day. Moving on from the standoff that came from Lorraine being another tough woman, I don't believe for a minute that Lorraine would just go away quietly, and of course she didn't. But let's just move on with the story. Tina wrote in her book, page 78, that she's living better than she ever lived in her life. Ike was telling her tales about California. She said that it didn't sound very interesting. It's amazing. Look, I love Tina, but Tina is like not interested in nothing. She's going to the club. I don't know why I'm going to the club. I mean, who is he? I'm singing Fool in Love. I'm not really that interested. She's not very interested in her baby's father. She's not interested in any of it. But somehow her mother going upside her head, telling her to stay away from this club and stay away from Ike. People pulling guns on her. She's facing this danger for things she doesn't want. It just doesn't make sense. But hey, it's a book. It's all entertainment. It's entertainment, but it is part of American music history. It's part of their family history. Seeing them all pass like this is really something. But let me go on with the story. Tina tells journalists that she promised to stay in her book because singers were always leaving Ike, she said. And again, band members, they do leave all the time, but I don't think Ike would take it hard with these collaborations because these are front men. Just like B.B. King did a collab with Tracy Chapman. These are collabs. These men are headliners. They have their own life. They have their own band. They're band leaders in their own right. Somehow she got to that session, but she said she didn't like the song. She learned the song, but she didn't like the song. Yeah, she definitely gave it up on that song. But supposedly she's not living in Ike's house anymore. And this nursing job is supposed to have disappeared. Somehow it disappeared. When did that job go away? Her first real job as a young woman. There's just like a half page of discrepancies here. I'm just going to keep it moving. And we should just consider that Tina was young. Maybe Tina felt her options weren't good during that time. Tina doesn't like to say that she was poor. Yeah, but Tina does describe a lot of struggle in her family, a lot of financial struggle. There was never her talking about she was living high on the hog. And Tina's mother did try to keep her on a more conventional path, even though Tina talks about her mother not caring, not loving her. But mothers know how young men are. And Tina has to realize that. I don't know why she doesn't give her mother credit for that. Her mother knows how young men are when they're sowing their wild oats. We all do. And you don't even have to be somebody's mother to care enough about a young lady in her late teens, early 20s, having kids and wanting to run around with musicians. That's scary stuff. It worked out for Tina, but that's some scary stuff. And it was a compromising situation that Tina was in, even when she was with Raymond Hill. Raymond Hill was also running with the ladies. You don't get to be Ike's bestie unless you rolling the way he's rolling. And Ike ran around with the ladies. Ike is kind of, he describes the stuff in a very boyish way. There weren't all these diseases and threats of, that happen when you sleep with somebody. So it was just like free love. And Tina, being a woman born in Nutbush, Tennessee, an impoverished part of the country during the Jim Crow era. I came from Mississippi, also impoverished. But Ike had already made his experiences, but Tina came from Nutbush, and then she comes to St. Louis and she sees the complete opposite. The excitement of that city life, the entertainment, the lavish lifestyle that Ike had, as well as his generosity. And Ike had it going on. So Tina decided to take a risk and make something happen and start a career with Ike Turner. A lot of people take risks in their youth. Some people, especially teenagers, are prone to do reckless things to get their shot, and they don't see it as reckless. That's the thing about being young. You look at things in retrospect and you go, whoa, I was doing that. Well, you don't even know you're young when you're that young. You think you've grown. These teenagers think they grown. And Tina says that right after, let me get back on track. Tina says that right after that recording with A Fool in Love, I guess sometime after, that's when her relationship with Ike became volatile. Because she said she wanted things to be strictly business. She wanted to end the intimacy. And remember, she's, even according to Robbie Montgomery of Sweetie Pies, Tina was obviously pregnant. They were both obviously pregnant during that session. So anytime after that session, she is still obviously pregnant. So I don't know what her plan is at this point, with one child already and carrying Ike's child during all this. Tina says that's when Ike struck her with a shoe stretcher. That's when he hit her for the first time. And also, according to Tina's book, she was no longer living at Ike's house. She had her own place. And I really have a hard time with this version. A man coming over to my house when he has a woman at home, you're going to do a drive-by on me and start manhandling me because I want to end the intimacy. I don't know why they're bound at this point. I'm just going to put a pin in this because there's been enough tap dancing in this video. I just want to get through the essentials and wrap this up. I can already see that this is getting long. Thank y'all so much. If I said something that gave you more insight, please give me a thumbs up, give me a share, drop me a comment, let me know what you think. I appreciate you so much for tuning in. Until the next time, y'all keep living your life like it's golden. Peace.